Welcome back to the Scarlet Faithful podcast. I'm Aaron Brightman, and this episode we're going to discuss Rutgers hoops. A couple days out from the Big Ten opener against Illinois, and no one better to speak to than my old friend and former On the Banks colleague, Dave White, longtime season ticket holder. Dave, thanks so much for being back.
Thank you. I still think you and me going back to that MSG game against Minnesota with Brian Fonseca.
That's right. We were sitting behind the basket. There was not many people there at all. I remember they were losing that game by I think it was double digits.
8 or 10, I think at least, yeah. And then they came rolling back. So
yeah, it's been a long journey in terms of that, and just in terms of seeing this program get to the level they're at. What are your initial thoughts of this current team right now so far through 6 games?
I think it's funny that they started the season against Princeton, which we now know seems to be a really good team, and Rutgers really wasn't clicking in that game at all, but they were still in it. It was tied pretty late, if I remember correctly, and Princeton used their experience to just kind of take over down the stretch. But since then, Rutgers seems to be getting more and more in sync. They're diving for balls. They're getting open shots. And it seems like they're trusting each other more, which is probably that gelling everybody's talked about, that we're really starting to see.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think that, it's funny we waited so long for Michael to play Princeton and to do it in the opening game of the season against such an experienced team. It's kind of crazy if you think about it now. And it is kind of crazy that Rutgers was able to hang as long as they did, because they really did play poorly on both ends. I mean, defensively, they were nowhere where they're at now. I guess in terms of who's impressed you the most so far?
I think Noah has really impressed me the last couple games. He's really starting to come along. You can see him start to understand the offense and the defense more. I love that trap that they're running when the opposing player comes over the midcourt line, and they're so fast enough to recover. Derek Simpson's played really good the last 3 games. So their guard play is starting to come along. Andre Hyatt's been solid. He's been consistent. So those are the 3 that really stick out, is Noah, Derek, and Andre for sure.
Yeah, it's funny because they haven't shot very well at all statistically, but I think that offensively, they're just getting better and better in terms of the flow, and I think you're seeing that influence of having guys that can create off the dribble. Even I think the veteran experience of Noah in terms of how he's, using ball fakes on the perimeter, in terms of how he's passing and setting people up. That he's utilized the way he's getting the ball into Cliff. They're finally, I think, starting to use Cliff in space more and not just, boxing him down on the block and just, taking away his athleticism, letting opponents do that. So I think as a staff too, they're kind of trying to figure out how to best utilize everyone, and you're seeing really positive signs, and I think it's only a matter of time before they start shooting better.
Yeah, I mean, I think you really just gave us the Cliff Notes, pun intended, version of that Noah video you did. If the people listening haven't seen it yet, it's like 2.5 minutes long. It's fantastic about how Noah is finding Cliff in open space and how the ball is really moving and not sticking with him, how he's taking smart shots and stuff. So I think that's really, really impressive for a kid that's just kind of coming in off injury and transferring into a new team.
Gavin Griffiths, obviously a little bit of a slow start offensively, but I'm encouraged too by just how much better he's gotten defensively already. He's still going to have some issues, I think, physically in the Big Ten this year, but just him starting to recognize rotations, and it seems like he's starting to figure things out a little bit. I thought against St. Peter's, even just offensively, the way he was hustling and doing kind of some more little things. How much do you think his role is going to grow as the year goes on?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a real confidence game with him. You could tell in that BU game where he scored 25 that once he realized they couldn't guard him, he just took over. And he's getting his open threes, and he's making them. He's probably going 2 for 4, 2 for 5 a game, I think. So he's going to punish somebody, but it's going to depend on who he's. Sorry, I just got a Secret Santa notice in text message, and it made me laugh. he's gonna punish somebody at some point, and I'm very interested to see who they have him defending on Saturday, and whether he could recover. Because Coleman Hawkins could be a real big tough matchup for him, and I don't think they'll match him up against him. But I don't know Illinois well enough. I haven't seen them much this year to figure that out. But I think he's going to punish somebody. But yeah, he's exciting. There's so much potential there.
Yeah, for sure. And the Illinois matchup is fascinating. I mean, they're really big, super athletic, as we know. And the Rutgers and Illinois both have top 12 defenses right now, 11th and 12th in KenPom. But it's interesting because Illinois doesn't turn teams over, so they're just forcing bad shots. But I think that's something that Rutgers can overcome. And also in transition, Illinois is not good in defending transition. How much, I guess, are you surprised how much Rutgers actually is running in transition versus, we know they talked about it all offseason, but me personally, I've said I was a skeptic as to whether Pikiell would actually, let them run as much as they are.
I think against the opponents they've been playing, I'm not that surprised. I think it's going to come down to what are they going to do on Saturday, on next Wednesday against Wake Forest, against Seton Hall, these bigger, tougher, more athletic teams. You say Illinois is bad against transition, and that should help. And Rutgers should try to push the pace, but Pikiell doesn't want to win. He keeps saying they're in an 80-point team, but he doesn't want to win 80-75. He'll take 80 if they win 80-55.
Yeah.
So I'll be very surprised if it's a 70-65 game on Saturday as opposed to 62-57.
Yeah, it's a good point. It's going to be really interesting to see these next three games. Obviously, we'll learn a lot about this team. And I think, just the depth in terms of how he uses rotations. Will he tighten things up a little bit? I personally think Austin Williams is a big, get back healthy. I think he's good. I could see him guarding Shannon a lot in this game, just because in terms of his size, matches up a little bit better. And
I did want to ask you though, because you mentioned Austin Williams. I'm really surprised. Sorry. I'm really surprised at how fast he is for how strong and big he is.
Yeah.
I think he could be a real matchup problem for other teams. I did want to ask you, though, because I've heard Pikiell say Williams, that I'm really surprised
that they're not a bad free throw shooting team as opposed to getting the
I'm
right
really
guys
surprised
at
how
line.
fast he is for how strong and big he is.
Noah at the line,
and he could be a real
Cliff has
matchup
gotten
problem
better,
for
but
other
Cliff
teams.
and Wolf are not the guys you want at the line. So I think some of the free throw shooting woes are from that. And if they're winning, you're more likely to have Noah and Derek at the line. So and Andre Hyatt. So
that's a great point because they haven't really been in any close games where that's been a factor yet. I guess Bryant was really the only one, and that's when Simpson, I believe, he went 8 for 8 in that game. You just had Noah go 9 for 9. So yeah, both of those guys. I mean, those are your two primary ball handlers. They're both shooting over 80%. So I think that, and I also laugh too when fans get so upset about free throw shooting because I wanted to pose this to you. So, I mean, I think I know what you're going to say, but I mean, would you rather want a team that shoots 80% from the line but shoots 25% from three? Or would you rather a team that shoots 65% from the line but shoots 35% from three?
Yeah, I mean, I want to see a good 3-point shooting team. I don't mind shooting well from the line either, but I just want to have fun.
Right, but it's also efficiency, right? I mean, the 3-pointers are more valuable. So, yes, I get the whole idea of like their free shots and all that. There's no defense, but I think people get really wound up. I mean, they shot 72% against St. Peter's, and people were saying, it's a huge problem. It's like they're not going to be perfect. There's certain things we're going to have to live with. I think as long as, like you mentioned, those key guys, we know our top 3 free throw shooters are good.
Yeah,
and and when Mag does come back, he was 70%. So they're going to be better. I think, yeah, Cliff and Wolf are going to get their foul shots and the struggle. I think J. Mike, that's part of maybe why I see him playing a little bit less in Big Ten play because he struggled from there as well. So it's going to be interesting. But what are your thoughts on this team holding things down now and then the potential impact of what Mag could have once he gets back?
Well, I think what's interesting is I want to see how they. I'm going to assume Mag doesn't play on. I have no idea, but I'm going to assume Mag does not play against Illinois at this point. Maybe they just wait till after these next 3 big games.
Maybe.
Who knows? But I think this team can hold it down. I think there's enough quality depth where they can hold it down and play pretty well and be in games. What interests me is the matchups. I know we've talked a lot about this Illinois matchup, but I saw, Seton Hall does not have a lot of bigs, but Holloway is a good defensive coach, and they are not going to let Cliff have their way. So the guards are really going to have to step up early to open it up for Cliff, and Wake Forest, watching them last night against Florida, they can score, so
Yeah.
they aren't easy games. I think there's enough that Peichel can plan for and do. It's just they're gonna have to score, and hopefully the optimism we're starting to see kind of pays off the next 3 games and going forward.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think Seton Hall is a good example of why using Cliff more and just getting him more active in the half court, setting screens, rolling off screens in transition. The way they're starting to find him a little bit more. I think the more that Rutgers can run in general, which leads me to my next question about the press. It's been really effective so far. Obviously, they played a lot of inferior teams. How much do you think they're going to stick with the press? Now that the schedule ramps up, and how key do you think that is to generating more offense?
I think they're going to press, unless their guards are in foul trouble or Cliff is in foul trouble. I really think they're going to press. I think it speeds everybody up, and it takes time off the shot clock for those half court offenses in the Big Ten. You'd rather them setting up with 22 seconds left as opposed to 26. So yes. Pike's going to take it off here and there. You can't press all game, but I think they're going to press more often than not. And when they don't press, I still think they're going to meet that lead guard at half court with that double team until they start getting beat by it.
Yeah, well,
No, I said, what do you think?
Oh, well, I think that it's interesting because, statistically, obviously they haven't played anybody great yet, but they're just as dominant defensively. But I do think they're doing it differently. They're more consistent with the press and using it, but also, their guards it's much more ball pressure versus jumping passing lanes, anticipating like they did more with Cam and Paul and Caleb. You have all 3 guards, Simpson, Fernandez, and Davis. They get in people's faces, and they really the ball pressure that they are defending with, it's really created havoc. It'll be really interesting to see if they keep that same approach against Big Ten competition, and if they're as effective, because they are on the smaller side. Not that that necessarily means that they can't be really good in terms of being disruptive, but the physical nature of the Big Ten, it's going to be interesting to see how they hold up in terms of that kind of defensive mentality.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I just want to stop you real quick because I do want to say something. People listening to this, especially if you're on YouTube or Apple, review, like, and subscribe to Aaron's podcast and I'm going to press you to do that. Like and subscribe and review 5 stars because like Peichel runs a 5-star defense and brought in 5-star talent, Aaron Brightman deserves 5-star reviews. But I mean, I think the small guards, and if they get worn down, I think Rutgers has done a really good job of wearing down these lesser opponents.
Yeah.
Because these games, everybody complains, these games are close early and everything. You don't need to jump out to a 10-0 lead every game. But I think if this press is going to really wear a lot of Big Ten teams down too, because you don't see a lot of full court pressure in the Big Ten.
Yes, and first of all, thank you for that. Secondly, that's why I'm excited, because they are, if they actually stick to this, which I think they're built for this, right? Yeah. They're going to be playing a different style than most Big Ten teams. So it's going to be fascinating. Every matchup is going to be a contrast in styles. And, I think when Mag does come back, the press could be even different and, I don't want to say more effective, but, if they put him in the front of the press, or, could the guards be more aggressive, because now you have Cliff and Mag defending the rim. I mean, there's just a lot of versatility they can do in terms of bringing him back. where I really do feel like they're scratching the surface on figuring out what they can do on both ends of the floor. And we're seeing them win in a more dominant way game after game now. So I think that that's a positive sign as well.
Yeah, I think usually what we've seen with experienced good Pikel teams is they struggle real early. Then they usually hit their stride around now through, the beginning of Big Ten play. And then they struggle again, and then you hope they finish strong. I really think, though, with this team and the way they're coming together, you might see them actually playing their best basketball all the way through February, as opposed to like that roller coaster.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I was going to bring this up because I was looking at their schedule. I mean, they could play relatively well, and they could start feasibly. I mean, they could start 1-4 in the Big Ten play because
Right.
they have Illinois at home, then they're at Ohio State, at Iowa, Indiana at home, and at Michigan State. I mean, that's a tough 5 to
Right.
start. And I could see it almost being an opposite of last year, where they get off to a slow start record-wise in the Big Ten, and then they're able to really pick up steam and finish strong. But I don't know. I think that's what's so key about these next 3 games. Like, if you could pick off Illinois at home, then if you just reasonably split on the road next week, you win 2 out of those 3, you're in a pretty good position. If you lose Illinois, it puts so much more pressure on both those road games. If you go 0 for 3, that's certainly going to be. It's still early, but it's going to be a concern for sure.
Yeah, I think of the high majors before the new year, those 4 high majors we're playing against: Seton Hall, Mississippi State, Illinois, and Wake. You want to at least go 2-2. There's only 1 game at JMA, 2 games at the Rock, and then at Wake, which doesn't seem to be an easy place to play. So, you come out of there 2-2, and then win the games you should. You're feeling pretty good.
Yeah, totally agree. In terms of overall, just how you look at the Big Ten, where do you think Rutgers kind of hangs right now?
I think they're middle of the pack right now. Their defense is really good. They're really still figuring out on offense. We haven't seen them against, other than Princeton, since they've kind of Rutgers has kind of started to click again. We haven't seen them against somebody good. We're going to know more. If you talk to me next Sunday, the 10th, we're going to know a lot more than we do right now. I have no idea what I'm going to see on Saturday. I'm very excited because I have no idea.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. And, you have guys in this team that have never played in a game like that before. It is Illinois' first road game of the season, so that's something as well. They're 1-4 at the Rack in their last 5. So I actually was going to – you remember that anonymous quote that came out like last year, the year before? It was with The Athletic about an opposing coach talking about the Rack and what a dump it was and how miserable they are there. I think we talked at the time. I definitely feel like that very well could be Brad Underwood who said that. So it's going to be really funny. I'm sure a lot of Rutgers fans did not forget that.
Right. I'm sure they didn't. Rutgers fans always get on Underwood too. I sit kind of behind the visiting bench and you can kind of see it. They do love getting on Underwood, and they really got under Georgetown's skin, getting on Cooley and the assistant coaches. The Rack is going to be fired up for a 4:00 game on a Saturday. No college football, really. The Rack is going to be fired up on Saturday. I cannot wait. So.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be amazing. Just any final thoughts from you, just in terms of maybe things that have surprised you so far, things you're looking forward to, or something you think this team hasn't shown us yet that you're looking for?
They're due for a big-time three-point shooting game. It's going to happen. I think they're too good of a shooting team. It's going to happen.
Totally agree.
I think that's coming, and I think it's coming sooner than we think. Other things, I mean, I don't know. I said this on Twitter, Aaron, but ever since you made your announcement the day of the St. Peter's game, and I'm sitting in the stands, and for those of you who don't know, Aaron and I text, call, DM, we talk all the time. And I'm sitting in the stands, and all of a sudden I hear people behind me talking about Aaron Brightman and his lifestyle change to move away from the Scarlet Faithful. So people know who Aaron is. That surprised me, but I shouldn't have been surprised. So I think it's going to be a really fun. I say this every year ever since Rutgers has gotten good, but I just think it's going to be a fun season. It's going to be the nice appetizer to the hopefully 24-25 season.
Well, it sounds like I brought you on to just plug me the whole time, but we did not discuss that. But
But hey, author, I've written 6 books, and I just know that I have to plug myself, so I'm going to plug Aaron until my next book is out.
Any books you want to plug?
You can check out the Jackson Dunn series on Kindle, so they're out there.
Awesome. And so you know what, that made me think of one last thing. What has been the overall vibe at the Rack this year? Is it, been less tense in a way? Obviously it's early, but just in terms of the style of play and maybe lesser expectations going into this year based on a kind of a new unknown group.
Yeah, I think the Rack is funny, whereas in the early games, people are just more excited. I think the tension doesn't really set in. I like to say the Rack gets ornery. Like tomorrow, if they get off to Saturday, if they get off to a bad start, like then you'll feel the grumbling. And I love an ornery Rack because it usually wakes the team up. But the vibe right now has just been kind of like exciting. The Ace Bailey, everybody's talking about Ace Bailey. They're talking about the potential of Dylan Harper and this whole class that's coming in, and everybody's just kind of enjoying it right now. So that's how I feel. I don't know. You can sense the tension, but they haven't been down against a bad team long enough where people really got nervous.
Yeah, that's the point.
Yeah, even Georgetown, like they went up on Georgetown and you knew it was over. So what if they're down or the refs start making some really questionable calls, then you'll start to feel it.
Yeah, that's why we can't have any padded seats. We can't have any, food, too nice of an environment. I just think that orneriness, as you put it so well, will not be the same. And I think we're in agreement on that.
Yeah, I mean, if everybody's uncomfortable and then the game goes wrong, people get really mad. If you're sitting in a padded seat and you're very comfortable and the game's going wrong, at least you got your $15 hot dog and whatever else, sushi and stuff, and it's not going to bother you as much. Pat Hobbs, I love you. I think you're a genius, but just more bathrooms.
Dave White, always a pleasure. Definitely have you back at this season at some point, and appreciate everything and all your support as well. And hopefully we get a big win on Saturday and a lot more optimism to come with it.
I hope so too. Like and subscribe. Hit the thing. It's like over here somewhere. Like it. I watch too much YouTube and TikTok.
All right. Thanks so much.
All right. Bye.